Okay, today here we have a iPhone 6s with a cracked screen, and you can probably see it there. And we know the home button works because we pressed it. And let's press it again. You see that touch is working on this, but it's broken. We go to vibrate, back up to ringer, and looks like maybe our volume buttons are not working either, so that may be something else that will need repaired. But for now, we're just going to worry about changing the screen. Okay, so here we have all the tools that we're going to need. And now let me get the camera set back in here. And here we have opening pliers, iSesmo opening tool, a couple picks for opening, a sponger, plastic sponger, another plastic sponger, and some tweezers. And then we have a penelope screwdriver and a Phillips screwdriver. Alright, first we're going to start by powering off the iPhone. And it is now powered off. And then we're going to remove the two penelope screws on the bottom. And let's go ahead and get them out. Alright, there's one of them. And here, I'll move over here where we can see it better. We have a little magnetic mat that we're going to place all of our screws on to let us know where they go. That's very important with these iPhones, because if you put a screw in the wrong spot, you can easily destroy the logic board to this iPhone, and then it's no good. So very, very important that we get all the screws back where they came from. Alright, after doing that, now we're going to see if we can get this open. With cracks, it may be very difficult to get it to stick. So we're going to see if we can here. It doesn't want to stick to the screen. And that here, so... Alright, we'll show you a little trick here. If it doesn't want to stick to the screen, is we'll remove this. And grab us some packing tape here. And you can stick packing tape on the screen, and sometimes that allows you to get enough section on the screen to go ahead and start breaking the glue loose on this. So let's go ahead and get us some tape down here. One of the things you want to be extremely careful of with the iPhones is this home button. If you damage or destroy the home button, the phone is basically no good. So you basically, you really got to be careful of that home button. Alright, so let's go ahead and, well, still not getting it to stick there. Alright, so these guys aren't going to work this time, so we're going to see if we can get our opening tool in there and get it started that way. And you just work it kind of along there underneath the screen and start getting your screen to come up a little bit. And that as we get underneath it, As you can kind of see, it's slowly getting under it. And now we're just going to slowly try and work this screen up a little bit. And you lose it, sometimes you got to go back and work it under again. And that's where these little guys can sometimes come in handy too. If you can get it up enough. Oh. Let's try it again here. Work to get it open enough that you can, and actually we might be able to just work it around a little bit, getting it underneath there. Again, you want to be really careful of the cables and everything. Try to get this little plastic pick down in there. Now we're going to set that aside, and we're going to try and work this pick down the sides of the phone here. And part of the problem was we had the tape over the edge, so that didn't help us there. So we got the pick down that side. Let's take this one, run it across the bottom, start getting it all loose down all the sides here. And that we're gonna run it down this side, breaking all that sealant loose. And that, remove our picks now that we got it here. And we are going to slowly start opening this phone here. Being very careful not to tear any cables that are up at the top. And you can see all your glue here. It's holding it together. And get it open, slowly working it apart. Again, you have to be extremely careful of these cables. And now that we have it open, let me go ahead and pause the video here for a second. Okay, I'm back. As you can see, we're still being careful of the phone here. And now we are going to unhook the battery using the Phillips screwdriver. And you want to be really careful not to strip any of these screws out, as they are very, very easy to strip out. And as we remove that one, make sure you know where they come from again, because especially these two screws are different lengths. And if you don't get them in the right spot, you will destroy your iPhone. So now that we got that off, now we're going to try and remove this little shield here and expose the battery cable. We got the shield off, and we're going to set the shield up here with our screws, helping us remember where they go. And now we're going to use this plastic sponger to get in here and undo the battery cable right here. And that, trying to make sure you can see right there. And that, so we're just going to use the end, trying to get underneath there and flip it up. That one doesn't want to work too well. We're going to go to this one. And sometimes these are a lot easier. And sometimes they give you a little problem. And let me pause the video once again. I'm going to grab a smaller sponge. Okay, we are back, and again we are going to use a smaller sponger here. Get right underneath that, and we're going to pop that battery cable up. Move it out of the way. Now we're going to disconnect the display. And with the 6S, it has 4 screws up here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, different sizes, so you want to make sure that you get these guys back in where they came from. Be careful not to strip them. It's extremely easy to do with iPhones. Take it out. Again, I have all my spots labeled here on this magnetic board so that I can set my parts over there, know exactly where they go back. And that, these screws are very, very small. What may help some people is if you buy you a set of magnetic glasses or magnifying glasses. That way it helps blow everything up so you can see it. And again, making sure we set all these where we know how they go back in. As you see, that one's quite a bit longer than the other ones we just removed. Can't stress enough that you need to make sure you know where those screws go back. We set our little shield up there, so now you should be able to see the cables down there. And we're going to pop these cables loose, just like we did the battery cable. Get underneath it, pop it up. There's one. Over here at the side is two. And the last one here. And make sure you kind of take a mental note of where these guys went and how they're set up on your phone so that you get them back in the right spot. Alright, now that we've done that, we are going to set the bottom of the phone aside and we are going to work on the screen here. First thing that we're going to want to do is remove this heat shield right here. Again, it's held in with Phillips screws. Very, very easy to strip these and bend these, so you want to be very careful with these here. And that, trying to make sure I stay on camera for you guys here too. And there's one. There is another one. And he was stuck to some of the adhesive, and that's you sometimes need to make sure you clean that adhesive away from these screws here and all that. And as we go ahead and remove the third one down the side on this side. Again, we're placing all of our screws so that we know where they came out and we can put them all back. Now we're going to flip it over and we're going to do the same on the other side here. Again, you're supporting these little tabs so that you don't bend them, and also kind of helps the screws come out a little bit. And that, placing all the screws on our pad. Usually when you order your screens, and that we get ours off of a couple different companies on Amazon that we have accounts with, and sometimes you order them, they come with kits. Otherwise you can order the screen without the kit. We don't need the kit, so we order them without the kits. Alright, and after we've went down the side here, we're going to come down here and undo this screw down here at the bottom. And that right there. And place it at the bottom down here. And then we're going to come up here and undo this screw right here. Alright, so now our heat shield should be ready to come off. And so we're going to go ahead and slowly start working our heat shield up. And up here you have a couple pieces of tape that we're going to take off and try to save to use again. So you're going to get your little sponger underneath that tape and start trying to get under that tape and get it loose. And it's not real easy. So you're going to want to get this tape loose any way you can. Long fingernails sometimes help. Razor blades, but you want to be incredibly careful of a razor blade, because if you slice these cables and you're kind of out of luck. Because you'll have to then replace your camera and speaker cables that are up there. And as we work to get this off, sometimes your tweezers will help you in this spot. Once you get enough to get a hold of them, or again, if you can get underneath and all that. The tape just kind of helps you make sure you get everything back into place. If you can't get the tape back, it's not the end of the world. We try to, because you want to get the iPhone back as close to the way it was as possible. Very tedious, time-consuming job here as you continue to work at this tape a little bit. Being very, very careful of the cables. I have had calls from customers where they took it to someone else and they tore a cable, and usually if that happens, we won't even work on the phone. Trying to work this tape slowly loose here. And sometimes it goes a whole lot easier than this. This one's being very difficult for us. As we get a hold of it and we're able to peel that one back, now we can work on the other side a little bit. Again, these are going to help get your heat shield back in place. And all of our techs have kind of a different way they like doing this. And I kind of use a technique of just all of them. And that whatever works to get it loose and not tear that tape. We get underneath here. Now we've removed our heat shield, and we are going to set it over here by our screws where it says heat shield. And now we are going to work at the home button. Again, you want to be extremely careful of this home button here. And that. As we get our Phillips screwdriver here. And we have this little screw right here that we're going to remove. And put it up here where it says home button. Remove our second screw. Put it up with the home button. And we're going to put our home button bracket up there. Alright. Now we're going to unfasten the home button. And that right there is you just unfasten that. Now you have to be very, very careful at getting this cable here loose, because this is the home button cable, and like I said, if you destroy it, you're just kind of out of luck then. your phone won't be able to use the fingerprint scanner and all that. So we got the cable loose, and this one came loose very, very easy. Sometimes they're a little tougher. Now we're just going to push the home button through from this side carefully as you slowly break it all loose. And I'm going to set our home button up here above the magnetic pad. And now we're going to start working on our speaker and camera assembly up here. And here we go. Phillips screwdriver again. We have 3 screws holding this down. Again, making sure you know exactly where these screws go because they are different lengths. And once that's done, we can go ahead and start to remove this here. And it has a small gasket that comes down here. I'm going to be careful with that one. And we're going to go ahead and set that up here. And now we can start disassembling all this. You have your camera that you can fold back, and then you have your speaker that comes up out. I'm going to set it above the speaker area. And that now we need to try and get all of our cables and cameras loose without breaking them. So get our little sponger here, and we are going to work at getting the light sensor and camera to come up out of their spots, and there it popped up pretty nicely. And take a look, making sure that you got everything. And now, I know my hands keep getting in the way here, so I keep trying to slide out of the way to show you. And we're going to bend these cables out of the way. You don't really have to do this, but we're going to do it to kind of show you how it goes. And as we're going to slide under here and start trying to get this cable to come up and loose. And again, be very, very careful. You don't want to damage this cable as you slowly work your sponger underneath it and get it to come loose. And that, because it's glued down there a little bit. And as we work at getting underneath all the different sides to kind of get it loose. Get it to slide around. And again, we use a cloth here to help kind of protect the customer's phone so you don't scratch it up. And now as we are getting underneath it and we get it loose, and there is your camera and speaker assembly. So we're going to set it up here. And now you're going to take a look at your screen. And this one here actually has some stuff coming loose from it that we're going to have to try and put back in place. I don't like that. Alright, well, I'll try to decide if we need to grab another screen here. Alright, looks like it's going to be okay. And we are missing a couple brackets here, so we're going to have to come in here and see if we can first get this camera bracket loose. You want to be careful that it doesn't go flying, and you have to start looking for pieces. Pull it loose and set it over on this one. And we are going to move this little camera bracket. Some screens you buy will have them, other ones don't. And it's always nice if they do. It saves a little bit of extra work. But some of the ones that don't also cost a little bit less. If this is a black phone, there would also be a ambient light filter that we would have to move, but since it's a white phone, we don't have to do that. So now that we got that done, we are going to start and remove this little adhesive that is here, paper, so that we expose the adhesive. And now we're going to start reassembling. And that is, you see the camera part here. And you start to get everything back in place. Oop. Sometimes you can use your tweezers to help you do this. And all that. And there we go. We have that down. Now we're going to get the front-facing camera and ambient light filter in place. And since we knocked our rear camera frame out, we got to put it back. And we're going to grab our speaker. And with my fingers here in the way, it's going to be tough, but you're going to see a little rubber gasket that is oval, and you see the oval on this, that needs to get down in there, because that is actually your speaker. And you kind of feel it go down in there snug, and once it's seated down in there good, and that you can slide your camera over. And if you remember, this cable was actually on top of the other one, so you can move it now or you can move it later. It just helps to kind of move it now so that you don't forget about it. And then make sure you have that little pad touching all three of those little things there, and we're going to put our bracket back on. Trying to get the gasket around this pad here and get everything where it belongs. And getting that gasket in place is very, very tough without tearing it. I will admit most of the time we end up tearing it, but again, you're trying to put everything back the way it was. And it looks like we got everything loose up there, so we're going to have to pull our bracket off and resituate everything. And we're going to go about this different here. So as we get everything resituated up here, we are going to put our bracket on here first. And again, make sure you get all these screws back where they came from. Very, very, very important with iPhones, because they use different size screws all over the place. Kind of loosely put it against there. The middle screw up here, it is the longest of the screws. And as we kind of get it down there, and we'll put our last one in. Alright, and now We got all that there, so we got our speaker and cameras all reassembled here. And now we're done with our old screen, so we can actually set it aside. And we're going to work only with the new screen right now. So we're going to grab our home button. And we're going to put it back in. That, as you press it down, again you have two little pegs to get your home button sealed down there. And then you're going to snap it right on to this part, and wasn't on camera there. Pretty self-explanatory though once you get it going. So you get all that back in place, and now we're ready to put the heat shield on. So as we grab our tweezers, we're going to again remove some protective covering here. This one's stuck down more than normal. We peel it up, and we are ready to put our heat shield back on. And we slide underneath there and get everything in place here. And actually, we're going to have to pause for a second as we go back to our old screen. And remember this tape I told you we were going to try and save and use again? I'm going to peel it off and stick it up underneath here. It's a lot easier if you do it before you put all those other things on. As you can see, I'm kind of struggling to get it on now. Different tricks you can use to get it back on there and in place. Got it stuck down a little too soon because my heat shield's out of place. See what happens when I make a video. I start getting everything going out of the whack here. Alright, let's move this up. Let's see if we can get it back into place where it belongs. And we're going to peel off our other piece of tape here. And it actually tore, so we're not going to be able to use that piece of tape, which is unfortunate. So we are now down to the one. We're going to seal back down there. Now we're going to start putting this back together, and I just remembered we need our home button shield. So that's actually good. We remembered that before we got too far. So we can lift it up a little bit. Get it underneath there. And get all this in place. I want to make sure everything's feeling like it's going together right. And start reassembling our home button. Being careful not to lose our screws and to get our screws back in the same spots they came out of. Can't stress that enough, that make sure they go back where they came from. That's a feature built in to try and help Apple keep people that aren't Apple techs from messing with their phones. Alright, now we start with the heat shield, putting that bottom screw in, kind of helping align it. Now we're going to put the top screw in. And that, as we get it up here, and it goes in sideways, and it slid off the end of my screwdriver here. And I do like using magnetic screwdrivers. They help a lot for... And if you don't have a magnetic screwdriver, you can actually lay a screwdriver on a magnet and magnetize them. As you see here, I just use an old speaker up there. And now we're going to work our way down the heat shield sides, putting all these screws back in. And as we are going to again support it, you want to be careful you're not applying too much pressure to the front and crack your new screen. That would not be good. And this one has a lot of old glue on it, so we'll see how well he goes in. And he is going to go in just fine, so that'll work. And actually, as you noticed, I did get these out of order. The ones down the side and at the bottom are all the same length, but again, you still want to try and get them in the spots they came from. It's just good practice. And especially as you move on to some other phones, it'll become even more important if you're going to try and do this on other brands and other iPhones. And one more. And I keep constantly checking my magnetic board over here to make sure that I'm not leaving any parts behind. And that, as we are going to put this last one in the side here. And now we have our new screen all reassembled. So now we are going to get our back here again and get it all going, and we are going to reattach our new screen in that. So you're going to set your old screen up here in place, and we are going to reattach these three cables with the long one at the side first. And you should feel them click and snap into place. And sometimes it takes a little bit. This here is where Jake, one of our techs, is really, really good at it. Justin probably the best at this, but alright, that one snaps down. And that, as you can see, where we're working at now. And here we go. We're working on this one up here. Again, you just kind of work it around, trying to get it in its spot. We get it, snap down, and then we have our last one here. And I thought he snapped in easily, and he didn't, so. Sometimes I will stick something up there to help support this screen, so I got two hands. I'm trying to keep as much out of the way for you guys as possible on this video. And we feel and make sure everything feels flat. And now that we've got this far, we are going to reconnect our battery here for a second and set our screen down, and power it on. And there you can see a nice Apple logo. It's always good to see. And we wait, trying to make sure, and now we touch and touch and touch and touch and touch. And now we're gonna make sure delete works, touch on different parts of the screen, make sure the home button works, and now we're gonna power it off. And that helps test the top of your screen works, and we have a film on it, so it kind of hinders the touch a little bit. Alright, so now that we know this screen's working, now we can finish up. So we're going to open this up again, being careful of our cables. And we are going to start putting our covers back on. And I always go ahead and remove the battery cable just to make sure nothing shorts out. I know Justin and Jake don't like to. They just go ahead and fly through this, but I like to. So we are going to put that shield back in place. And this is probably going to get hard for you guys to see. I'm going to try to do it the best I can. And again, you're trying to be careful of your screen here. Like I said, having it lean against something is always good. Now as we go ahead and get our screws here in place, and I'm kind of limited here on one hand. So normally I would have it much easier. Alright, as we put that one in, get our shield all adjusted, I'm going to put our other top one in. Again, make sure you know where these go because they are different sizes. I know I've stressed that a lot during this video, but it's tough to stress that enough. And there you go. This screen here came from CTL or something like that on Amazon. East Coast LCDs is another place we get screens from, and like I said, there's a few different companies we order from, and you want to make sure you get these screws in snugly, but not stripping them out. And again, normally I would use two hands to put these in. I'm just kind of at a disadvantage here, and I'm going to go ahead and set this up here like I said I normally do. And as you can see, when that's held in place for you, it makes it much easier for you. And again, reconnect your battery. And now we're going to put the battery shield on. And the screw closest to the battery is your long screw, just in case you get them mixed up. But again, try to set them there so you don't get them mixed up. And see if I can do this so you might be able to see. Now that I got my screen held in place. There's that one. And last screw on the inside of the phone. Alright, now we're going to reassemble this. Normally we would put some adhesive down here, and that we are not this time because this phone's going to have to be reopened to deal with the volume problem. But we are going to go ahead and just show you changing a screen in this video. So you slide your two little hooks underneath there, and now we're going to put the bottom of the screen down in. A lot of people like to go from the top straight down. If you do that, it's not going to fit. So we are going to put the bottom in, and then we're going to press the sides down in. And clean the adhesive off the side. And we are going to replace our two Penelope screws here. These little guys kind of drop down into place, and be careful not to drop them into your charging port. Never done it, but it would be possible. So as we put those there, and now we're going to screw them in. And sometimes you have to clean lint and stuff out of these screws, because sometimes they get just all full of gunk and all that. So and there it is, and we are going to power it on again. Make sure our phone still works as we see it powering on, and we got some kind of red on this one. We'll have to clean that off. And there is changing the screen on a iPhone 6s.